Far away in the vast darkness of space, many whispered about a story that sounded more like a legend than reality. It was said that long ago, during the first great wars between humans and alien empires, there was a ship unlike any other. This ship, crafted in secret and hidden from the eyes of enemies and even most humans, was rumored to carry technology so advanced that it could destroy entire fleets with ease. Over time, these tales became nothing more than stories told in quiet corners, a myth people believed only to keep hope alive during dark days. Some called it the Dauntless, others simply referred to it as the Ghost Ship, but all agreed it was something from a forgotten past, a weapon of immense power that vanished without a trace. Across the galaxy, many doubted the stories, calling them old wives' tales or propaganda designed to boost the morale of weak human colonies struggling to survive. Meanwhile, a powerful alien force known as the Empyrean Armada was growing stronger and more ruthless. The Armada had conquered star system after star system, spreading fear and control wherever they went. Their ships were numerous, their weapons deadly, and their confidence absolute. They believed no force in the galaxy could stand against them. Human colonies, scattered across distant planets and moons, lived in fear, preparing for the inevitable day when the Armada's shadow would fall upon them. Most people had lost faith in any chance of victory, convinced that resistance was pointless. Yet somewhere deep in the silence of space, the truth of the legend stirred. Without warning, the first signs appeared. Remote communication outposts reported strange signals that defied known frequencies. Scanners detected an unknown ship moving at impossible speeds, disappearing and reappearing across sectors faster than anything previously recorded. This was no ordinary vessel. It moved with purpose, striking quickly and vanishing before the enemy could mount a counterattack. The Empyrean commanders were baffled and uneasy. Their advanced technology failed to identify or catch this mysterious ship. Reports came in of entire squads of enemy fighters destroyed by a single strike, leaving behind no survivors, no clues, only the whisper of the ship's passing. As news spread, hope flickered in the hearts of humans who had almost given up. Could the old stories be true? Could the Dauntless have returned from myth to reality? Some feared it was a trick, a cruel game played by fate or the Armada to confuse and demoralize. Others believed it was a sign that humanity had a secret weapon, something hidden and powerful enough to change the course of the war. Governments and commanders scrambled to understand the situation. Scientists studied the strange signals, while soldiers prepared for battles unlike any before. The ship's sudden appearance forced a new kind of war, one where speed, surprise, and mystery replaced the predictable tactics of before. People watched the skies with a mix of fear and anticipation, wondering who was behind the ship's controls. Was it a lost faction of humans working in the shadows? A secret group dedicated to protecting humanity? Or perhaps an ancient technology awakened at last? The Empyrean Armada grew restless and angry, determined to hunt down and destroy this threat. But every attempt to catch the ship ended in failure. It was as if the vessel knew the Armada's every move before they made it, striking with precision and disappearing without a trace. As battles raged and colonies clung to survival, the legend of the Dauntless became a beacon. It reminded humans that even in the darkest times there was still something to fight for, a chance to prove that they were not weak or doomed. This was no longer just a story told to children or whispered in fear. It was a living, breathing force challenging the greatest threat the galaxy had ever seen. The stage was set for a confrontation unlike any other, one where the line between myth and reality blurred, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. Unknown to most, deep inside the heart of the ship, plans were unfolding to bring hope back to the galaxy, to remind everyone that sometimes the greatest legends are not just stories, they are the beginning of a new future. Without any warning, the vast Empyrean Armada, proud and confident in its power, suddenly detected something that made even their most experienced commanders uneasy. Deep in the outer reaches of a contested star system, sensors picked up a large, unfamiliar vessel, moving at a speed that defied all known technology. This was no ordinary ship, and it wasn't like any of the war machines the Armada had ever encountered. Its design was sleek and unlike anything recorded in the Armada's archives. A smooth hull that shimmered faintly in the darkness of space, with shapes and angles that seemed almost organic, as if the ship itself was alive. It moved with a grace and precision that made it impossible to track, slipping through the Armada's radar nets and electronic eyes as if it were a shadow made real. As the mysterious ship came closer, it became clear that its capabilities far surpassed any known human or alien technology. It accelerated faster than the fastest fighters, dodged incoming fire with effortless speed, and responded to attacks with devastating power. Its weapons struck harder than anything the Armada had ever faced, tearing through the strongest armor plating like paper. Attempts to hit it often failed, as the ship's shields absorbed even the most powerful blasts, without showing signs of wear. The Armada's leaders immediately sent out squadrons and fleets to intercept the vessel, eager to identify and destroy the threat before it could do real damage. Yet, every battle ended in disaster. Entire squadrons were wiped out in moments, their pilots barely managing to send warnings before their ships exploded in fireballs against the void. Larger warships that engaged the vessel found their weapons useless against its defenses. Even coordinated attacks, where multiple ships fired volleys simultaneously, only seemed to annoy the shadowy vessel, which retaliated with terrifying efficiency. It moved through the Armada's front lines like a storm of destruction, striking from nowhere and disappearing before any counterattack could be launched. Survivors of these encounters were few, but those who lived carried stories that spread quickly. The ship was relentless, precise, and seemed almost unstoppable. It was as if it knew the Armada's moves before they happened, anticipating strategies and countering with flawless timing. Whispers began to grow louder among the Empyrean forces. Some feared it was a weapon created by an unknown enemy. Others thought it might be the return of an ancient human legend. Across the battlefields of space, human colonies that had long lived in fear of the Armada's power now found themselves watching the sky with a new kind of hope. News of the mysterious ship reached every outpost, every station, every hidden settlement. People who had given up dreaming of freedom began to believe that salvation might come from this shadow in the stars. They called the ship the Dauntless, a name that echoed through quiet halls and crowded marketplaces alike, carried on whispered conversations and bold speeches alike. But no one knew who was inside the ship or where it had come from. Some said it was crewed by humans who had been hiding in secret, preparing for this moment. Others believed it was an ancient relic from a lost time, controlled by an advanced, artificial intelligence awakened to defend humanity. Theories spread like wildfire, but none could be confirmed. Commanders in the human fleet scrambled to communicate with the vessel, hoping to join forces or at least learn its purpose. The ship never responded, never slowed, and never strayed from its path of destruction against the Armada. Its attacks were not random acts of violence, but carefully planned strikes that targeted key positions in the enemy's formations. Supply lines were cut, communication hubs destroyed, and morale shattered. The Empyrean Armada, which had once seemed invincible, was now forced into retreat after retreat, fighting battles on multiple fronts while fearing the sudden strike of this phantom warship. Despite all efforts, the Armada could not stop the Dauntless. The mystery only deepened when the ship was seen aiding human fleets in unexpected ways, appearing suddenly to rescue outnumbered squadrons, shielding fragile transports, or clearing a path through enemy blockades. It seemed to act not just as a weapon of war but as a guardian, a symbol that humanity was not alone and not defeated. Across the human colonies, morale surged as tales of the ship's actions spread. Old soldiers who had seen too much war found themselves inspired again. Civilians who had spent years hiding in fear dared to hope. And the leaders of human resistance movements saw a chance to unite under this new symbol of strength and possibility. But even as hope grew, so did the tension. Questions without answers gnawed at the minds of many. Who controlled the ship? Why had it appeared now? Was it truly human, or something else? Could its power be enough to end the war, or would it bring new dangers unknown to anyone? The silence from the ship itself only added to the mystery as it never communicated, never revealed its intentions, and never allowed itself to be boarded or studied. It was a shadow moving through the galaxy, striking fear into the hearts of the strongest enemy and lighting a fire of hope in the weakest humans. And as the Empyrean Armada struggled to regroup and respond, the presence of the Dauntless marked a turning point. One where legends and reality collided, where fear met defiance, and where the fate of many worlds hung in the balance. The galaxy watched and waited, knowing that the shadow had emerged, and with it a new chapter in the long struggle for survival and freedom had begun. The war between humanity and the Empyrean Armada had reached a new level of intensity. Yet, the mystery of the Dauntless only deepened with every encounter. Then one day a turning point arrived that no one had expected. During a fierce battle near the outer colonies, a young Empyrean pilot was captured by human forces. This pilot, trained and loyal to the Armada, was brought to a secure station where he was questioned carefully. Slowly, and with growing fear, he revealed information that shook the human leaders to their core. The Dauntless was not just a random ship or a last-minute invention. It belonged to an ancient human faction known as the Sentinels, a secret group that had disappeared from history many generations ago. The Sentinels had been devoted to advancing ship technology beyond anything that had been publicly known. They had worked quietly, hidden away from the main colonies and governments, perfecting new weapons, shields, and tactics to prepare for a future when humanity would face its greatest threats. This faction had been a guardian force, acting from the shadows to protect scattered human settlements and maintain a hidden hope for survival. But as the centuries passed, the Sentinels vanished, their existence fading into myth and forgotten archives. Hearing this, the commanders of the human fleet felt a surge of disbelief mixed with hope. Could this secret faction truly have returned? Was the Dauntless the key to turning the tide of war? They hoped so, but the mystery remained. Why now? And why had they waited so long? Meanwhile, aboard the Dauntless, something extraordinary was happening. The ship was controlled not just by a crew, but by a highly advanced artificial intelligence that was unlike any system humanity had encountered before. This AI was capable of learning and adapting rapidly, using data from battles to improve its strategies in real time. It communicated directly with the human fleet commander via encrypted channels, sharing information that stunned everyone involved. The AI revealed advanced energy weapons that could focus power with incredible precision, capable of disabling enemy ships without destroying them, making it easier to capture and learn from the Armada's technology. It spoke of nearly impenetrable shields that could absorb and redirect energy attacks, protecting the fleet's most vulnerable ships. But what surprised the human commanders the most was the AI's focus on psychological warfare, methods designed not just to destroy the Armada's forces, but to break their spirit and morale. The AI had studied the psychology of the Empyrean, soldiers learning their fears, weaknesses, and doubts. It developed tactics to exploit those vulnerabilities using feints, misinformation, and unexpected strikes to create confusion and fear among the enemy ranks. Slowly, the human fleet began to adapt to these new tactics. Training sessions were held where pilots and commanders learned to use the advanced weapon systems and coordinate their attacks with the precision guided by the Dauntless. The psychological strategies taught by the AI were put into practice, turning battles into chess games where humans moved with surprising intelligence and unity. The scattered human forces, once fragmented and disorganized, started to come together as a true fleet with one purpose. Morale soared as victories began to pile up, small at first, but growing in number and significance. Colonies that had been on the brink of surrender found renewed strength to resist. The human commanders realized that the war was no longer just about firepower or numbers. It was a battle of minds, wills, and hope against fear and oppression. The presence of the Dauntless and the secrets it carried changed everything. The AI on board also shared information about hidden supply routes and secret communication networks used by the Armada, allowing human forces to strike with precision and avoid traps. These revelations turned the tide of the war from a desperate fight to a calculated campaign for liberation. But with every step forward came new challenges. The Empyrean Armada began to recognize the threat the Dauntless posed and responded by increasing their efforts to find and destroy it. Their own scientists worked feverishly to develop countermeasures against the advanced technology, while their commanders adjusted their tactics to avoid the psychological traps laid out by the AI. Battles grew fiercer and more dangerous, pushing both sides to the limits of endurance and creativity. Amidst this, the human fleet remained united, inspired by the knowledge that they were fighting with tools and knowledge thought lost to time. The legend of the Sentinels, once dismissed as myth, became a rallying cry, a symbol of human ingenuity and resilience. Yet the true origins of the Dauntless and the full extent of the Sentinels' plans remained a mystery. Some wondered if the AI was the last survivor of the faction's minds, carrying their legacy forward. Others hoped that hidden Sentinel bases still existed, ready to join the fight. The human commanders understood that the key to victory lay, not just in technology, but in uncovering these secrets and uniting all of humanity's scattered forces. Every new battle brought them closer to revealing the full truth behind the Dauntless, and with it, the hope of ending the long war once and for all. As the human fleet rallied under the guidance of the AI and the shadow of the Dauntless, they prepared for the battles ahead, ready to face the Empyrean Armada with a strength born from unity, knowledge, and a hope that had been rekindled from the ashes of myth. The war was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, humanity stood not just as survivors, but as warriors ready to reclaim their place among the stars. After months of relentless battles, hidden secrets, and rising hope, humanity found itself standing on the edge of a momentous decision. The scattered colonies, once isolated and fearful, had been brought together by the presence of the Dauntless and the advanced technology it carried. The stories that had once seemed like myths were now guiding strategies, inspiring courage, and uniting people across vast distances. For the first time in generations, the human fleet was ready to move from defense to offense, to strike at the heart of the enemy and change the course of the war forever. The plan was bold and dangerous, a coordinated assault on the Empyrean homeworld itself, the fortress from which the Armada controlled its vast empire. Commanders knew this was a turning point. Failure could mean the end of humanity's chance to survive, while success would ignite a fire that could drive the invaders back for good. Leading the charge was the Dauntless, its silhouette cutting through the darkness of space like a blade. The ship moved with confidence and purpose, its advanced systems guiding the fleet through enemy defenses with unmatched precision. As the human ships closed in on the homeworld, the Dauntless targeted the command vessels that coordinated the Armada's forces. One by one, these massive ships were disabled by concentrated strikes that focused not on destruction, but on crippling their ability to communicate and coordinate. Without clear orders, the Armada's forces began to fall into chaos. The once tightly controlled fleets were now disorganized and vulnerable, caught off guard by the speed and accuracy of the human assault. Meanwhile, deep within the Empyrean stronghold, the enemy scrambled to restore order. Their advanced technology and numbers had made them confident for so long that this sudden shift unsettled even the most hardened commanders. They struggled to understand how humans, once seen as weak and divided, had found the strength and unity to challenge them so fiercely. Across the embattled planets and colonies under the Armada's control, the impact of this strike was felt immediately. Messages from besieged worlds began to flow back to the human fleet, reporting uprisings, sabotage, and a renewed will to fight. Inspired by the fearless attacks of the Dauntless and the coordinated human forces, civilians and soldiers alike rose up against their alien oppressors. What had once been acts of desperation became organized resistance, fueled by the hope that the tide of war was finally turning. In the midst of battle, human ingenuity shone brightest. Pilots used the advanced tactics shared by the AI aboard the Dauntless, coordinating feints, ambushes, and psychological maneuvers that threw the Armada off balance. Engineers repaired and modified captured enemy ships, integrating alien technology with human innovations to create powerful hybrid war machines. The fleet adapted quickly, learning from every encounter and becoming stronger with each victory. The Empyrean Armada, long accustomed to dominating with overwhelming force, found itself on the defensive, The confidence that had driven their conquests now gave way to uncertainty and fear. Every loss was a blow to morale, every failure a crack in the armor of what had seemed an unstoppable empire. The war, which had begun as a struggle for survival, was evolving into a fight for humanity's rightful place among the stars. In the command centers of human leadership, celebrations were tempered by the awareness that the battle was far from over. The Empyrean homeworld was heavily fortified, with layers of defenses that still posed a deadly threat. The success of the initial strike had weakened the enemy, but the fleet knew it would take more than technology and tactics to win the war. It would take courage, sacrifice, and unbreakable unity. As the fleet regrouped to plan the next phase of their assault, the Dauntless remained at the forefront, a symbol of hope and defiance. The ship's AI continued to guide the human forces, analyzing enemy movements and suggesting strategies that combined precision strikes with psychological warfare. The human commanders trusted this partnership, knowing it was their best chance to outsmart an enemy that had once seemed unbeatable. Far from the front lines, ordinary people on human worlds watched and waited, their hearts lifted by the news of victories and the promise of freedom. Stories of the legendary ship and its crew spread quickly, inspiring songs, paintings, and messages of support across the colonies. Children who had only known war dared to dream of peace. Elders who had lived through dark times found renewed purpose in the struggle. The war had transformed from a grim fight to a movement of hope, led by the shadow of a ship that refused to be forgotten. Yet even as humanity celebrated its progress, the Empyrean Armada was preparing for a final, desperate response. Their leaders convened in secret, determined to find a way to destroy the Dauntless and crush the human uprising once and for all. Advanced weapons were developed, spies were sent to infiltrate human ranks, and new tactics were designed to counter the fleet's growing strength. The coming battles promised to be the fiercest the galaxy had ever seen. In the midst of this tension, the human fleet prepared to push forward. They knew the risks, but also understood that the future of humanity depended on their courage. With every ship ready and every soldier determined, they launched the next wave of attacks, striking deeper into enemy territory and cutting off vital supply lines. The spirit of resistance burned brighter than ever, fueled by the legend of the Dauntless and the unity it inspired. The turning tide was no longer just a hope, it was a reality. Humanity had taken the fight to the enemy's doorstep, and nothing would stop them from claiming their place among the stars. The war for survival was now a war for freedom, and the outcome would shape the destiny of countless worlds. As the human fleet surged onward, the galaxy watched and waited, knowing that the true battle was only just beginning. With the Empyrean Armada finally defeated and the long war coming to an end, the galaxy began to breathe a sigh of relief. The shadow of fear that had hung over human colonies for so many years was lifting, replaced by a new light of hope and promise. At the center of this change stood the Dauntless, the legendary ship that had transformed from a myth whispered in the darkest times into a powerful symbol of unity, courage, and resilience. As the victorious human fleets gathered across the stars, the Dauntless did not retreat into legend once more, but became a beacon, a living reminder of what humanity could achieve when it stood together. Then came the moment that no one had expected. For so many years, the ancient faction known as the Sentinels revealed themselves. Emerging from the shadows where they had protected and guided humanity's hidden strength, the Sentinels joined openly with the rest of the human colonies. Their arrival was met with awe and curiosity, for their knowledge, technology, and wisdom had been crucial in winning the war, yet they had remained a secret until now. The Sentinels did not seek power or control, but offered their resources and knowledge to help build a new future. Together with leaders from the scattered colonies and fleets, they began forming a united government, dedicated not to war, but to peace, exploration, and the advancement of all humanity. This new alliance was unlike any the galaxy had seen before. One, built on trust, shared purpose, and the understanding that survival depended on cooperation rather than conflict. Governments merged, old rivalries faded, and a fresh spirit of collaboration took hold. With the Armada no longer a threat, Resources that had once been devoted to weapons and defense shifted to exploration and innovation. Scientists, engineers, and thinkers from every corner of humanity worked together, inspired by the technology and lessons carried by the Dauntless and the Sentinels. New ships were built for discovery, fleets sent to map distant star systems, and research devoted to improving life for all human worlds. The legacy of the Dauntless was not just in its firepower or its battles, but in the hope it had kindled. It became a symbol carried in stories, songs, and celebrations, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, courage and unity could bring light and change. Children grew up hearing the tale of the shadow ship that had emerged to save them, and they dreamed not of war but of the stars beyond, of adventures and discoveries yet to come. As peace settled over the galaxy, many who had once fought found new roles as teachers, explorers, and builders of this brighter future. They worked together to heal wounds, rebuild shattered worlds, and create systems of justice and fairness that respected all voices. The new government emphasized education, culture, and communication, understanding that the strength of humanity was in its diversity and cooperation. Yet even as humanity looked forward, the story of the Dauntless and the Sentinels reminded everyone that vigilance was needed. The galaxy was vast and full of unknown dangers, but now humanity faced these challenges not as divided colonies but as one united people. The lessons learned from the war, the importance of hope, intelligence, and unity, became the foundation of a new era. In time, monuments and memorials were built to honor the bravery of those who had fought and the wisdom of those who had guided them. But most importantly, the story of the Dauntless was passed down as a living legend, a symbol of what could be accomplished when people believed in each other and in the future. Across the stars, signals were sent out from the new human alliance, not as warnings or threats, but as invitations to other worlds and species. Humanity was ready to explore, to learn, and to share. The myths that had once seemed distant and unreal had become the foundation for real change, inspiring generations to come. The war was over, but the journey had just begun, and with the Dauntless sailing among the stars, humanity stepped forward into a future filled with possibility, courage, and the enduring power of hope.